Hi, welcome to social identity. It exists in every single one of us. So, what is social identity theory? The goal of this video is to explain just that and give real examples of its implications in the workplace. In addition, how to minimize the issues it might cause. Social identity can be defined as a person's sense of who they are based on their group membership. Social identity theory has various aspects which you will soon delve deeper into. One's social identity can take on many shapes and forms. Throughout this video, we will illustrate the theory behind the different elements of social identity and its implications on behavior, in-group identification, and group status. A large aspect of social identity theory is the idea of an in-group and an out-group. An in-group is a social group to which a person psychologically identifies as being a member. By contrast, an out-group is a social group with which an individual does not identify. Basically, social identity theory states that members of an in-group will enhance their group image while discriminating and holding negative views of the group that they do not belong to, the out-group. Social identity theory proposes that there are three cognitive processes that we have the natural tendency as human beings to undergo or follow when we evaluate the out-group and the in-group. The first stage in the process is called social categorization. This is when people tend to categorize their social environments into different groups and segments to better understand the dynamics that exist around them. It also allows people the opportunity to place and identify themselves within groups that they interact with on a daily level in their social world. Examples of such a group might be an urban versus a rural worker. The second stage of the process is called social comparison. This theory states that we determine our own social and personal worth based on how we stack up against others, and in particular those in the out-group. As a result, we are constantly making self and other evaluations across a variety of domains. For example, attractiveness, wealth, intelligence, and success. The third and final stage of the process is called social identity, which is the subject of this video. As mentioned before, social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their group memberships. The social identity that the individual has identified with can be perceived as negative or positive, this being a result of the previous stages of the process. If one identifies as having a negative perception of one's identification, it is likely that the individual will seek to exit the social identity and find a more favorable one. If it's positive, however, the individual will be more likely to accept this.
Imagine you are the best team player of a widely known football club association that has a global footprint. Take a moment to think about the self-conception you have about yourself, your own personal skills and abilities, and also the fans rallying behind your back and the way they shape who you are. Then think about a football club that is always losing games. Think about how you feel about being in that team. Next, picture yourself as being part of the best football club that is always winning games. Think about how you feel being part of that team. The result is that you feel better to be in a team or group of people that is always succeeding, and worse to be in a team that is always losing games. What you've done so far is working through the parts of self-identification theory, which states that a person's sense of who they are is based on their group memberships. which they belong to, and which are also a source of pride and self-esteem. The way we view ourselves is based on how we feel to be part of the group we belong to, which is collective in nature, and our own capabilities as being personal in nature. We have the natural tendency to exaggerate the similarities between us or our groups, and exaggerate the differences between us or other groups. This helps us rationalize our internal perspective compared to others. A good example of this concept is a situation that you have placed yourself in previously. If you're part of the winning team, you may somehow match your own individual personality to the overall characteristics and collective behaviors of the team you belong to, and also exaggerating the characteristics of losing football teams as well as their fans. How is team effectiveness compromised in the situation above? Your behaviors can change dramatically because they try to become more inclined to embrace the beliefs and demonstrate the values that optimize their group. Individual efforts may be diminished because you will be trying to shape your behavior and abilities to match that of your team, which you may never had, and sometimes this may be beyond your own actual personal capabilities. One may become more likely to perceive individuals who belong to other groups as demonstrating qualities that typify members as a collective. In other words, they become more inclined to interpret the behavior of a specific member as negative rather than being positive. This can lead to discrimination in task allocation because you'll perceive that he or she is not able because of the type of groups he or she is a member of. This increases tension and team effectiveness loses momentum.
Imagine Jack, who is a newly hired manager in an investment banking firm consisting of senior management and junior management. Jack was hired into this new firm because of his potential to bring in a new wave of strategies, innovation, and creativity organization characterized by an open policy company culture with a high degree of collaboration between workers. He now finds himself in this new larger working environment where the culture is not so open and there's a high power distance environment. Senior management and junior. For the first time, he will tend to quickly associate himself with the senior management group as they are more similar to him in terms of belonging identity in this new environment, and reduce the risk of being ostracized by his group of senior managers. He begins to adopt the attitudes of his colleagues. For example, Jack now avoids interacting with junior staff in the canteen, which is something he did very often in his previous small firm, just because the senior management in this new company minimizes such interactions. Ineffectiveness in the organization, because Jack, who was hired to bring in something new to the organization as a whole, suppresses himself or who he was in his old work environment and tries to derive a new identity from his senior management.
Dynamics of social identity. It is recommended that management take advantage of the presence of social identities in the workplace. This can be achieved by designing and implementing incentive schemes that maximizes the beneficial aspects of healthy competition. An individual who belongs to a group in the workplace, for example, will try to make his or her team appear superior to whichever team they do not belong to. This would obviously have bad consequences for effectiveness and efficiency in the workplace, because different teams in a firm are supposed to work towards the same goal. But because of conflicts arising due to in-groups and out-groups, teams might compete against each other and shuffle the teams around from time to time so that individuals will not become too comfortable within their groups, and they will, as a result, not have ideas of superiority. This is important because teams in a firm should all be working towards the same goal. Regardless of this would be for teams to split up after they have completed tasks which they were assigned, and then forming new teams. With that, a organization employs a process of formal induction for new members into the firm. This formal induction should be dedicated to a specialized team of people who inculcate organizational values as a whole to workers and encourage them to have the bigger picture in mind, this being the success of the organization rather than enhancing their perceived